Tom, thank you very much for being here today.
Mike, good to be here.
Why don't we start off a little bit with you talking about your company for some of us who aren't too familiar with it, and then we'll kick it off and talk about you a little bit more.
Yeah, so our company is a 40 years old company called Forward Air, as you can see here in the background. And the company started, like many success stories, like with a very simple, compelling idea. A few of my predecessors looked at the skies and they saw passenger planes and they saw the bellies of these passenger planes moving high value freight. But when you, Mike, or anyone else had too many suitcases, that freight got bumped to the next plane. So they thought we can actually move air freight on the ground forward, therefore Forward Air. If we basically went from one airport to another, we have the freight delivered to us and picked up from us versus from an airline. And we can probably do this more reliably because the freight never gets bumped. We can also do it much more cost effective, half the cost or so. And we also, in today's terms, you would say, we can also do it much more environmentally responsible because a airline mile is much more carbon emission unfriendly compared to a truck mile. And so from that very simple, compelling idea of moving air freight on the ground forward, fast forward 40 years, and today we strive to be the best when it comes to things that are bigger than a box. So when you think about a UPS golden package for like a parcel or a letter, or FedEx absolutely positively overnight, think the same way about Forward. When it's bigger than a box, think Forward. And that's true for high value medical equipment set up for trade shows, for containers. If it's highly sensitive, if it's very tight time windows, and if there's no propensity for damage, that's 40 years of a DNA of precision execution of moving air freight. We should think Forward. We just had a third party actually compare ourselves with regular less than truckload freight companies. And we are, in fact, much more likely to have intact shipments that are damage-free, about 2 times as good as the next best, 4 times as good as the one behind it. So we strive to be the best when it comes to high-value freight.
Most people can find themselves familiar seeing your trucks driving around airports, right? I know I have.
Yes, there's about 5,000 of those across the US and also in and out of Canada. And we're also expanding our service in and out of Mexico. So we are truly a North American company, and it's a little jewel. And I'm very fortunate that 4.5 years ago, I got to join that team.
Great. How did you get your start in logistics?
Well, I think if you ask yourself or 5 other people, how did we end up where we ended up, there's always a few coincidences. But let me go back. So out of high school, I always wanted to become a teacher. And I studied that until the professor at university told me this is going to straight lead to unemployment because we have too many teachers in Germany at the time. I was born and raised there. Then I dug a bit deeper and said, like, when I grew up, I always dreamt about living and working in the US. I listened to Casey Kasem's Top 40, that dates me. And I always wanted to keep my feet on the ground, reach for the stars. And I made my way to the US by switching from studying to become a teacher to studying international business. First in London, England, which was kind of a step closer to the US, and then a graduate school in Boston. And after graduate school, I joined a consulting firm in the US in Atlanta, which is where I'm home now too, called McKinsey. Now, McKinsey is not in transportation or logistics. However, it is a professional services firm where my clients happen to be all in transportation. So for 5 years, I served railroads, I served parcel companies. And then after 5 years, FedEx in Memphis hired me away. So I joined FedEx for 12 years. Then I got to lead a company in Canada called Purelator, a great jewel up in Canada. And spent 3 years with DB Schenker back in Germany on their management board. And now 4.5 years ago, I came back here to Atlanta to work with Forward Air and lead that team. So I've been in transportation first on the consulting side, and then on the kind of transportation provider side for almost 3 decades. And I guess the lesson learned for me also was like, yes, it's great to use your head to calibrate so that you make good choices, but you should listen to your heart, because ultimately I followed my dream to make it to the US, and then I ended up in transportation, which happened to be a great professional home for me.
So what keeps you excited about the work that you do every day?
Mostly, I mean, this sounds very, very basic. It's the people. I love working kind of coming up and creating things, and they always become better when you play mental ping pong with teammates. And we have great people here at Forward Air. There are some principles that are super important to me. One is those people around me in my management team, they all should be significantly better at something that matters than I am, so that they stretch me, I perhaps stretch them in other cases. When you hire a bunch of mini-me's that are pretty much like you and I are, just dumber, that doesn't work because that's very short-term job security, but in the medium and long term, it's not going to make you better. So I want people who are in dimensions that matter better than I am. And then one other thing that's super important is collectively, those people that I work with, that where it excites me, they need to represent kind of the universe. So if they all look like you and me, that's necessary but not sufficient. We are much better as a team when we tap into 100% of the talent pool, not just 50%. And but it's exciting for me to work with people who are great at what they do, who are passionate, who look diverse, and who collectively stretch me, make me better, make our ideas better. And we all go to work, at least I do, with that type of people energizing me being a huge deal.
You kind of probably answered this in the beginning when you talked about Forward Air a little bit, but how are you and your business adding value to the supply chain?
Well, I mean, I said it a little bit to your point in the beginning, right? When we strive to be the best in North America when it comes to moving things that are bigger than a box. If you think about it, if you're shipping a piece of medical equipment from a warehouse in Minneapolis to a hospital in Miami, one that typically gets ordered because it's necessary to save lives. Secondly, when it gets there and there's significant damage, this might actually not just be a cost issue or a time issue. You literally, in this case, risking people's health. So we do want to say, and this is where I believe it's important to say, we're not just moving boxes. We're actually keeping America moving. We're making it possible for people to have better lives and livelihoods. And we do make a difference by, again, whether it's enabling a trade show to start on time, or whether it's a hospital to have their surgery when they're supposed to have it with the equipment that they just ordered. So for us, it's always important to think about, again, yes, manually we're moving a box, and we're doing so much more with it. It's people's lives, livelihoods. There's a purpose behind it. One story, Mike, that I always thought stuck with me, when I was at FedEx, one of our large customers was a company called Medtronic. Medtronic makes stents, valves, pacemakers, and when you walk into their head office in Minneapolis, and it's been a while that I walked in there, they had this big clock, and in essence, it was counting how many pacemaker stents, valves they put into your or my or other people's bodies. And then it basically said, like, we're saving a life every 3 seconds. That's who we are. That's what we do. And then when you actually talk with people there, like, what do you guys do? Even the janitor doesn't tell you I'm sweeping the floor. Oh, we save people's lives. That's who we are. That's what we do. I look at us in a perhaps a little bit more mundane way, the exact same way. We're keeping America moving. I mean, when you think about 3 years ago when COVID started, suddenly those truck drivers, and we have tremendous people in our driver fleet. In the past, people were perhaps somewhat irritated by these people clogging up the road. When COVID started and these people kept America still going, kept still supplies being delivered to all the grocery stores, we actually took our hat and said, thank you. And every day suddenly became Driver Appreciation Day. And I think we need to look at giving credit and respect to what our people do, it's so much more meaningful and purposeful than moving a box.
So throughout your career, what is one of the biggest challenges you've come across?
Well, there were a number. So the single biggest one from a learning perspective was probably the most painful one. So I was very fortunate after 12 years with FedEx in Memphis, where I also got to lead the FedEx supply chain operating company. I got an opportunity to lead a great Canadian company called Purelator. I also met my wife Anita in Canada, which was an unexpected, maybe much more important positive. And so when I joined Purelator, we had Purelator is a freight and parcel company. We had the ambition that we want to beat UPS, FedEx, and DHL at their game. And in my second year, Team Purelator actually had its best year revenue-wise and profit-wise in its history. Team did a phenomenal job. And then the majority shareholder was Canada Post, the postal service in Canada, and they had a national strike. And then the head of Canada Post came to me and said, like, we need to help save cost here. And so please, let's put some of our functions together, HR, marketing, IT. And I did not think this was in the best interest of Purelator. And so this is where I probably should have listened. Okay, I understand what they need to be doing. They need to cut costs in their core functions. Let me think about 3 different ways how I can help them get there, versus what I actually probably did was more like, nope, this doesn't make sense for us, so no, we're not doing that. And then I had a beauty contest against my majority shareholder, which ended up with my departure. And I think the learning here is I'm not doing my own team a service by proving that I'm smarter than the guy who's my boss. I am doing my team a service if I figure out is there 3 different ways to get to an answer that actually helps them and still preserves what we need to be doing as Team Purelator, which is beating the best parcel companies in the world in Canada, which is so. And I think since then, and at Forward Air, we have leadership imperatives like we communicate with 2 ears and 1 mouth. Since then, I tried very, very hard to work with people around me, including the board of directors, to make things lighter, not harder for the team. Again, sometimes the objective function should not be to prove that I'm right and you're wrong. The objective function should be how can we make all of us collectively better. That was a very painful experience. Frankly, it made the front page news that I departed and had to start from scratch. And I do believe, while I'm far from perfect every single day, today I'm a bit more thoughtful and purposeful in terms of listening and looking for sweet spots that achieve an objective function that leads to for everyone to be better off.
So Tom, what is one of your biggest accomplishments you've experienced throughout your career?
Well, so there's some book answers, and I'll give you a couple of those, which I am very proud of. So, I mean, one would be with Team Forward Air here. Just last year, we start getting recognized for being the best at what we do. So when we suddenly became the Home Depot appliance carrier of the year, that was a huge deal, like one of the best retailers on earth saying, this team that I'm part of is the best at what we do for them. Similarly, in Newsweek's America's Most Trustworthy companies of hundreds of companies in transportation, logistics, and packaging, we ended up being on the podium, number 3. All the big brand names, like from Delta to FedEx to Uber, are behind us. So that's certainly where I say, like, this is a great accomplishment by our team that I'm fortunate to be part of. I could go back, I mean, like, youngest senior officer in the history of FedEx, finishing up despite the German accent, at the top of Harvard Business School. So there are a number of like published author, a great book that I co-authored called Simple Solutions. But I really believe the thing I'm most proud of is something completely different. When I was in Memphis for 12 years, I don't have kids, so I used the FedEx brand name and my energy to get engaged in the community. I chaired the Chamber of Commerce board for many years. I try to tap into 100% of the talent pool, whether it's arts leaders. I supported the ballet, the park, or small businesses, or frankly, African-American businesses. And so in 2010, I was recognized by the Mid-South Business Council with the Diversity Award. And that's an award that they had given for 102 years, once a year, to a leader who made a difference for the Black community in Memphis. And in the 102-year history of those awards, there was only one other person that looked like you and me, white people, that got that award. So for me to have made a difference and made that community's lives in a small way better, where they would actually go out of their way and recognize me like that, made me very, very humbled, but also made me very, very proud. So that's probably in my book a bit ahead of any kind of academic or even professional achievement.
That's awesome. It's a great story. Your wife, family, and I know a lot of us are proud of you for that one. Fast forward to the future, what are you looking forward to the most?
Goes back to where we just were, Mike. So this is the point about using some of the energy that I have, and frankly also the opportunity that I have. I look at leading a company as an opportunity. It's a gift, it's an obligation. Anything I can do to make people's lives better a little bit every single day, whether it's the team forward, whether it's my family, my wife Anita. So there's something about, okay, let's use that energy to make people's lives a little bit better. And again, I'm very, very fortunate that I'm in a position where with the team, we can easily rally around efforts like our team forward. We said a couple of years ago, our company purpose, other than moving boxes and making differences in people's lives and livelihoods, is let's support veterans. Many of our drivers are veterans. And so we collectively make a small difference by making it possible for wounded veterans to participate in life again, to, for instance, drive cars again by retrofitting cars. And as we had our first annual golf tournament in support of veterans last year, collected $375,000 and retrofitted, together with Hope for the Warriors, cars, so people could, for the first time in a long time, drive a car again. So it's those types of things where I say, like, okay, yes, I want to make sure that our company financially gets better every single year, but most importantly, let's use the energy that we have to make people's lives and livelihoods better and easier.
Thank you. And before we conclude, can you share one closing thought on where Traffic Jam listeners can get in touch with you?
So you get a buy one, get two free, Mike. So I've got three closing thoughts. And if you need to edit one out, so be it. But let me just try to be succinct here. So the first one is, it's a bit in line with what we just talked about. It's to leave a place better than I found it. And this is an old Boy Scouts saying, but what I really try to do is, when you talk about leaving a place better than you found it, you think of people's lives at the end of their life, looking back over legacy. And my calling card for myself and for others is, you can leave a place better than you found it every single day, many, many, many more times. So there's emails I'm getting. I can choose to delete, or I can choose to, I think Mike ran into the same issue. So let me connect you with Mike, and I think you guys can have an exchange here. So I hopefully in that case left that person who sent an email to me in a slightly better space than they were before that interaction. Same with team meetings, where let's come up with 2 simple ways that we can actually resolve this. What would have to be true for us to be twice as profitable? What would have to be true for us twice as fast? So I think the one closing thought is put that leave a place better than you found it into your daily life, in every email response, in every meeting interaction, in every phone call, and you will be surprised. I'm always surprised that it always comes back to me positively, that little connection I helped make here actually led to something remarkable. The second thing is, we talked about interacting with people being a big thing that I'm excited about. Sometimes you also have to stretch people, and it's always good to remember to be tough on issues and never be tough on people personally. Difference whether I've got big expectations and I'm tough on those, and whether I'm tough on people personally, which is a big no-no. And then the last one is lead. Whether it's you in your job or pretty much everybody who listens into your podcast here, we all have the opportunity to lead. When right now we're in a freight recession, everything is getting harder. There's less volume now than there was a year ago because people last 3 years ordered, and then finally second half of last year, a lot of inventories came in. Now there's lots of inventories in stock and people don't ship as much as they used to. We noticed that. And now we can actually sit here and say, okay, let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's hope this is over soon, and kind of put something in front of our ears and eyes, and hope that there's some happy ending to this movie in 6 months or so. Or we can say, no, it's time for us to lead. We need to make good things happen faster. One of our imperatives is we do not wait. And so be the lead director, be the lead actor in your own movie, lead, and let's not sit in the stands or in the theater seats, eat some popcorn and keep our fingers crossed and hope that it's over soon. So I think we all have an opportunity to make a choice here. And I would just ask myself to always make the choice to lead and not just have my eyes closed and keep my fingers crossed and hope for a happy ending. So those were 3 things that I wanted to leave you with. Leave a place better than you found it, and do that every interaction that you possibly can. Secondly, always be tough on issues and expectations, not on people personally. And third, choose to lead. And then people can easily find Forward Air, or they can also find me. I always love playing some mental ping pong. So easiest way to find me is through my LinkedIn account. And I would love to have some back and forth. I always learn something from exchanges like this one here, Mike.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on Traffic Jam today. Traffic Club of Chicago really appreciates it, and all our members do too. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike, for reaching out to me, and thanks for having me.
If you want to learn more about the Traffic Club, please visit our website at www.traffic-club.org. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of Traffic Jam.